What's up, everybody? This is Alex Christoforou with the Duran, and I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. And today we're going to be taking a look at Theresa May's survival in the Brexit fiasco. All right, Alexander, she survives. She lives on to fight another day. What's the latest and greatest in the fiasco known as Brexit?
You're absolutely right. I mean, if we go back to what we were saying last week, I mean, it all looked as if it was curtains for May because people were so angry about this deal that she had cobbled together, and we've analysed that deal and we've explained why it's not the Brexit that most people were expecting, and why it's not a Brexit that anybody likes. But once again, the Conservative Party has found it impossible, it seems, to get rid of a Prime Minister that probably nobody in the Conservative Party likes. It's quite clear that the anti-Theresa May pro-Brexit faction within the Conservative Party greatly overstated the number of backbenchers who were prepared to write these letters of no confidence to the chair of the 1922 committee. So it seems as if we may not get that vote of no confidence in Theresa May. But the decisive event was that the 5 pro-Brexit ministers who are left in Theresa May's cabinet, and the man I particularly identified as the key player in all of this, Michael Gove, they decided that they wouldn't resign, but that they would stay on in the hope, which nobody takes seriously, that they can persuade her to renegotiate this deal.
Okay, so you just said no one thinks they're going to persuade her to renegotiate, so why are they staying on board? I mean, is this not, it seems to me this is a sinking ship, and maybe you can expand upon why you think they decided to stay on board. What are their reasons and what's their thinking? Right. But it doesn't make sense to me logically that this is going to go anywhere.
No. Right. I think one factor that must never be overlooked in any discussion of ministerial resignations, and what I'm going to say is going to sound very cynical, but I'm afraid it's true, is that resigning from the British cabinet comes with very substantial financial cost. I mean, each of these ministers who resigns would lose around £50,000. That's about $70,000 a year if they resign their positions from the British cabinet. Now, if you're an independently wealthy person, and some people in British politics, and especially in the Conservative Party, are, then that doesn't matter so much. But if you're someone like Michael Gove, who is not independently wealthy, then that is a major economic blow to suffer. And it's perhaps not surprising that some of these people are very, very reluctant to experience it and look for reasons to put off their resignation as long as they can. But I think that there is another calculation, or I think 2 other calculations. Firstly, I think Michael Gove, especially, particularly wants to become Prime Minister one day. And I think what he probably calculates is that once Brexit is out of the way and the deal is done, whatever form that deal takes, perhaps in March of next year, Theresa May will finally go, at which point he probably calculates that he will be in a stronger position to make a leadership bid if he makes it from within the British cabinet rather than outside it. I happen to think that calculation is wrong, but I suspect it is one that he is making. And of course there is the other overriding factor, the one we can never overlook in any discussion about the Conservative Party, which is one reason also why I think fewer Conservative MPs are coming forward to pronounce that they have no confidence in May that had been expected. And that is that they are terrified of bringing down May will lead to a political crisis which will force the collapse of the Conservative government and lead to a general election. which Jeremy Corbyn will win. And it cannot be overstated how frightened some of these people are about the prospect of a Jeremy Corbyn-led government.
Okay, Alexander, so take us through the nuts and bolts of this. May is not on her way out. And so what happens next? She's going to push through with a deadline, I believe, the end of November to get this agreement through. And then we go into March where the Brexit takes place. What's the process now going forward?
Well, right. What she now has to do is she has to put this deal to the House of Commons. Now, the Labour Party officially is going to vote against it. Jeremy Corbyn is instructing his MPs to vote against this deal. There is a calculation by the government that they will be able to peel off some Labour MPs to get them to support Theresa May, because these MPs want to see a Brexit, but they don't want to see a no-deal Brexit, and they would prefer this deal to no deal at all. So that is basically the hope she has. The parliamentary arithmetic still looks difficult, unless she can persuade enough Conservative MPs who are unhappy to continue to back her. Now, it's going to be very tight, and it's difficult to give a prediction, but my own guess, this is my guess, is that it will pass the House of Commons. A deal will pass the House of Commons, and we will get this deal, Theresa May's deal, through Parliament, through the European Council in November, through the European Parliament in the next few months, and that we will have Brexit on this basis. At which point, as I said, I expect Theresa May probably to resign and someone else finally to take over. Then there will be a period when I think the issue of Brexit will die down until eventually, as I said, as it becomes clear how disadvantageous the terms of this Brexit are to Britain, there will be demands for people to relook at this again, and there may even be demands for another referendum. That, I think, is the most likely course. The other possibility is that, of course, the deal fails, the Parliament votes it down, and that has to be considered a strong possibility. And then, of course, it's very unclear what happens next. Theresa May has said that it's either her deal or no Brexit. I don't think no Brexit is realistically on the agenda. I think trying to do that, even with a second referendum, would be so incendiary that I just don't think it's going to happen. And Jeremy Corbyn is known to be opposed to this idea. So I think that at that point, we could very well see preparations for a no-deal Brexit accelerating. But I'm afraid, I think the likelihood is that Theresa May would hang on, and then she'd try to bring this deal back to the House of Commons and try to get it passed a second time. And I think at that point, with more arms being twisted, then I think the chances are that it would pass. So, I mean, it doesn't look very good, however you look at it. It looks a very, very depressing scene.
It looks like, to me, that Europe has won either way. Either road you go down, it looks like it's an outright victory for the European Union as far as the negotiations went. And it also seems to me that, listening to you, that we may be looking at another referendum, once again, in both scenarios, which leads me to the question of what a lot of viewers are probably thinking, a lot of UK citizens are thinking, is that this was the plan all along.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, I think that, as I said, that if this deal passes, as I said, I think it won't happen immediately, but I've said this already. I think in 2 or 3 years' time, people like Nigel Farage will start campaigning for another referendum, in order to try to get Britain to scrap this deal and to move to a full Brexit. And realistically, if there is a second referendum, I think there will probably be on that referendum a question, do you wish to reapply for full membership of the EU? So we have to consider that possibility. I think a second referendum before March is extremely unlikely and probably won't happen. But I mean, we are looking at a fairly high probability of a referendum in the future. Now, I've expressed my view about this. I don't think Theresa May herself has destroyed her reputation and has put in jeopardy her position as Prime Minister in order to prevent Brexit happening. But certainly the British civil service, people like Oliver Robbins, who is the chief negotiator, who is a civil servant, in other words, a full-time professional British official, not a politician. Those people are known to be opposed to Brexit, and it is entirely possible that they deliberately negotiated a deal which they knew would be an unsatisfactory one, in order to leave open the possibility of reversing this Brexit entirely. That is not, it seems to me, a far-fetched theory at all.
And as far as the EU goes, it was an outright victory. I imagine you'll also agree that it was an outright victory.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they lost the referendum. I mean, I think they would have preferred to keep Britain in. And whatever happens, I mean, this crisis in Britain is going to continue one way or the other. But in terms of the negotiations with Theresa May and her government, I mean, they won completely. I mean, I think it was Boris Johnson who said, and for once I agree with him, it's not a question of the EU being 1-0 up. It's them being 5-0 up. I mean, they've absolutely taken Theresa May and the British to the cleaners. I mean, there's no other way you can look at this. They've got exactly what they wanted. They've secured every position that they could have wished. They've kept Britain, in effect, tied to the EU economically in a customs union. They've got a veto on Britain ever leaving that customs union. And they've got the possibility of Britain one day rejoining on their terms. So, I mean, they've won a clear-cut victory.
Okay, and this is my follow-up to that analysis, Alexander. Will this discourage other EU countries from taking the path that the UK took? Will other EU countries, say in Italy or Hungary, think twice now about leaving the EU?
I think they will, because I think they will see what a total mess the British made of it. And they will say that if a big country like Britain failed to do it, how can we, small countries like Hungary or Slovakia or even Poland, ever hope to succeed? So I mean, and that was, by the way, the agenda. I mean, the Europeans said right at the beginning that they were going to make Brexit as hard as possible for the British so as to deter the others. And that has been the objective. And it looks as if it's been a successful objective. It has to be said that, of course, this game is not played out. I mean, there could still be a no-deal Brexit. And as I said before, it's unlikely the British will ultimately take this line down. And we could see moves towards a second referendum with the deal being scrapped coming sometime in the future. But in the immediate term, the EU has got what it wanted, and one should be under no illusions about it.
Okay, and real quick, Alexander, to close out this segment, what should we be on the lookout this week? This week only. What are some signs? What are some signals that we should keep an eye out for?
Right. First of all, I mean, Theresa May is apparently going to go to Europe, so she's going to have a further meeting there, presumably to try to seal the deal and to give reassurance to the EU leadership that what she's doing is succeeding, that she's winning the argument in Britain. There is apparently some dissension within the European Council, with Spain in particular unhappy about some of the terms, but I expect that they will fall into line before very long. But I think the one thing that's left is that, the rebellion within the Conservative Party against Theresa May looks like it's failing, but it hasn't yet fully failed. if they manage to get the magic 48 MPs to put a vote of no confidence together, then the calculus, the dynamic of this may change. And of course, if Michael Gove, presented with the reality that there's not going to be any kind of renegotiation of the deal, finds himself under severe pressure and resigns, which is still a possibility, then of course the political crisis will take an entirely new dimension, and then we could be looking at a completely different situation. But as I said, at this moment in time, it looks as if Theresa May is going to survive, that a deal is going to survive with it, unloved though it is, and that the EU position is going to hold, in which case we will know definitely by the end of the week.
All right, we will keep an eye on this story, as we have been keeping an eye on this story, and we will see how it develops as the week goes on. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran, thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below and click on that notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. And visit the Duran shop, buy a t-shirt, help support the Duran. And in the description box down below, you will find links to our PayPal and Patreon page. Please donate. It really, really helps us out a lot. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran, thank you very much. Until next time, take care.